Well, happy to see all of you. I've seen some of you more often than others, but just the fact of being here and see your faces and actually being able to touch your hand and give you a hug and see you again and wave this close instead of on the piece of glass is a big difference. And I guess we're fortunate that we took care of ourselves, and we lament the loss that we suffered. So I put together a series of poems that they all segue quite well between the themes. So I won't bore you with a lot of the political heavy stuff. We'll leave that to one side. But to begin with, from the first book, All Our Brown Skin Angels, which is still in print. I keep selling it. People tell me that about it. People see me, I bring copies, and I'm already out of them. So it was the first book. I chose this poem, Where I'm From is the title, after George L. Lyon, because even though I know where I was born, I've been changing the way I address when people ask me. I say, I am Mesoamerican. And Mesoamerica is from the top of the North Pole to the South Pole. I just happen to be born in the center, a little north of the center of this big continent, and that happens to be known in the valley of Anahuac, where the city now known as Mexico City was built. I am from Anahuac, so my designation will be I am a Nahuatlaca, referring to my ancestors. But you won't hear that here. Where I'm from. I am from Cazuelas de Barro, from mole and tamales. I am from the restaurant my father owned, my burning mouth remembers. I am from the honeysuckle creeper, the fig tree jacaranda, whose long gone limbs I remember as if they were my own. I am from fiestas y piñatas, from late nights and early mornings, from chocolate caliente. I am from apúrate y cállate, from Reyes Magos y dulces. I am from Victor and Elena and Más vale tarde que nunca. I am from Mexico, Barrio Norte, caldo de hongos, from Paso del Norte to work the fields, good times, from familia, from mother's closet stash of letters sent and received, her hand embroidered, I love yous. I am from learning English in my youth, from hard work, from love, still growing along my family tree. (1960). 5 years or younger, I was standing, walking, black and white photos taken, now fading in the memory of my past. Growing up at my mom and dad's restaurant right next to the biggest bullfight arena in the world, Plaza Mexico, where everything began. Meanwhile, Jack Kerouac, getting high in my city, jazz poet, 242 blues choruses written in an afternoon jam session, and I came back spitting pulque in borracho orc, saloons of Old Star asking for more. My father enrolled me in a private American school, Escuela Ricards, from kindergarten to 5th grade. My best friends were Sally, Dick, and Spot. Scared of Santa Claus, learned about Halloween before I revered the Day of the Dead. Once, I stole 2 hours from my day. I don't remember the week, month, year, but I did. It was a day when I put the early bird songs in my pocket after listening to the sound of young ladies clicking heels and castanets with amorous echoes, nailed down to the soulless songs sung by drunken patrons at the restaurant my father owned, where the jaguars don't stop, nor the wounded beggars, nor the condors descending from the Andes' higher peaks. I stole 2 hours. I filled them with roses, words, feelings and metaphor, rhyme and me. Above the subway, below the heavens of this earth where I stood still. Language. In Mexico, a lot of the idioms, as they call them, they're still spoken. The Spanish try so hard to remove the people from speaking their own local language. Well, they didn't succeed. To this day, it's still spoken. My tongue, mi lengua. My tongue retains the roaring sound of rivers, of the earth after the rain, falling over leaves, branches, and flowers. My tongue is stained with the juice of sweet pitayas, red, delicious, grown under Tonatiuh's race, our Father, Son. My tongue reveres nature and all living beings, mountains, rivers, oceans, night and day. My tongue wears quetzal feathers, mystical birds from the Mayan paradise. My tongue is impregnated with Calpuli, Tonali, Xochitl, Xochipilli, Mictlantecutli, Cuauhtémoc, Moctezuma, Quetzalcoatl, Tomatl, Centeotl. My tongue speaks of temples, demigods, copal, flowers, medicinal plants, jade masks, golden pectorals, obsidian stones, volcanoes, and blood. My ancient tongue speaks Zapotec, Nahuatl, Purépecha, Tzotzil, Otomí, Chamula, Mayan, Tarahumara. My tongue is my identity, the connection to my people, my roots, my culture. My language is from the earth, from the heavens, from my soul. My tongue speaks, my soul feels the breath of the earth, the sound of the wind, the hecatl, my tongue, my language, my culture, my pride. So we hear every day, immigration has existed for as long as human beings have been walking the earth. It'll never stop. People always have to move. We have moved. That's why there's movement all over. And that's why we come, we have, check your DNA, you have a little 3% like me. 3% Scottish, really? From where? Maybe from my grandfather, from his ancient Spanish background, but it's interesting. Migration. Praise for the walking warriors. This is for the migrants, the shoeless, the desperate, the risk takers, the caring fathers and mothers, the elders, the young bloods, the babies, the laborers, the engineers, the aspiring writers, the ones who want to get ahead, the humans with colored skins kissed by the sun, the ones who are no longer dreaming, the ones who know the land, the ones who harvest our fruits and vegetables, the ones who take care of our elders, the ones who cook our food, the ones who sing hymns and turn prayer wheels, the poor ones, the unafraid, the women who were raped, the young women who want their children to have a better life, to all who desire and strive for freedom. And immigration continues. This poem is not published and it's been hanging around in my files in memory of Uncle Manuel. Most of my uncles and some of my cousins, they did what everybody did. Come across the border, work the fields, California, Yuma, farther up in Chicago, other places, Florida. Season enders, harvest time came, get your paycheck, go home. No problem. That's the way it's always been. My Uncle Manuel did that. Naked fury in sepia, photograph memories. Out of the rain, a man with a straw hat emerges. The past behind his peaceful, sometimes raucous life, rests tethered in a straw armless chair, arms crossed. He tells stories of farm workers sitting on boulders under mesquite trees eating early harvest, carrots, green beans, corn cooked over wild wood, fallen branches, fallen angels found on desert sand. Where blistered feet step on deadly snakes behind the rock's shade, blistering heat, Arizona, Yuma fields, insipid predictability held in tight tongues, harmonic junction played in unison after the sun ran away from the shadows chasing him, waltzing, flying, dancing on the vine, flower and fruit stories of youth in a distant land across the line. Back in the land where he grew up, his rough hands built permanent monuments at the house where my mother, love lives. Cement, brick, and mortar, walls and floors, the whimsical honeysuckle vine midnight fragrance pleasantly releases the memory of both. Under the fig tree, dark leaves rustle. Under the stars, moonlight, sky in sepia. And unfortunately, the fig tree is gone because my sister couldn't take care of it after Mom passed away. And she covered the ground with cement because she couldn't take care of it. My mom used to talk to her flowers. Mother's garden. Long ago, she spoke the language of the flowers, whose ponderous voice silently harnessed uncanny message. She early tended her garden, talked to the flowers, gleefully, luminance, graciously exalting the strife and slender of the early hybrids. She dug her hands in soft, damp soil to plant bulbs, seeds to grow and blossom under the sun, rain, and the wide blue sky. Soil under her fingernails kept her aligned, connected. When I smell fresh cut grass, Mother's memory comes alive. For long ago, she tended her garden and spoke the language of the flowers. Flowers bring bees and butterflies. This happened to me for real. It's a high boon. This is years ago. Last night, at around 8:30 Pacific Daylight Time, I went outside to walk my dog. What do I find? A dead, fussy bumblebee, stiff as a mummy, tough as a beast. I picked her up by one wing, set her up where I could see the bumblebee that died on my driveway, across from the front yard, as if waiting for me to arrive. And I saved that bumblebee. He's still on my bookshelf. You know, when we slow down and pay attention to things around us, there's a different world. We're always in a hurry. You know, oh, forget this, forget that. And then there are spiders, right? Marina, our daughter, when she was younger, she's never liked spiders. So this is up to her. Today, I killed a spider. Accidentally. Today, I killed a spider. Una araña patraña que salió del caño. My daughter's violin practice halted, screeched on the A note como uñas en el pizarrón y gritó, ¡ay, papi, una araña en la pared! The wall, I said. See? Can you see? Ponte tus lentes. Put on your glasses. See the 8 giant legs? Allí, mírala. Creeping, crawling, waiting to jump en mi cara. Get it out of here. Sácala, mátala, cuélgala de una riata. Please take it outside. Deja que coma moscas y mosquitos, but please take it out of the house. I grabbed a damn hand towel, se la eché encima, y la araña patraña was cut, asphyxiated en la toalla. Pobrecita, sin dos patas. My karma is not good now, because today I killed a spider accidentally. Lo siento mucho. So those things happen. Bye-bye. Okay. So we all have dogs. Where's Buddha? Is at home? Okay. Well, tell him I said this. This is after Wallace Stevens. His poem poetry is a destructive force. Title: The Dog. The dog is like another guy in the body of a peaceful beast. He owns his muscles. He lounges while we do our jobs. His job is to guard the house. His nose close to his paws. He is not miserable. He has no worries. I do and feel miserable. But they look so precious, don't they? Just sleeping. All right. So if I have a couple more. But before I share this one, let's see. In the book, I have a translation by Renato Leduc. Renato Leduc is was one of the customers at my father's restaurant. He passed away in 1986, born in 1897. About Renato Leduc. Leduc, son of a French father and a Mexican mother, served as a signalist in Francisco Villa's División del Norte. Studied law at the Universidad Nacional de Mexico. He wrote poetry, stories, and chronicles. He traveled to Paris, where he met several surrealistic writers. Leduc was a good friend of Elena Poniatowska, Federico Cantú, Luis Cardosa y Aragón, Octavio Paz, and Agustín Lara, as well as Maria Felix, to whom he was probably married. You know, those secrets never come out to the light. So I have his collection of collected poems. And in here, there's one that's titled El Correr de los Años, The Running of the Years. And I find it very appropriate, but I will only share with you the English portion, and then followed by my response to this, and that'll be the end. Okay, this is his poem by Renato Leduc in English for you. The passing of the years. I am not glad nor scared about my senile condition thing. I live quiet and comfortable in winter and spring. Lady friends and chums give me the gift of their ease, and yet I do not feel the outbreaks of my deadly disease. With effort and decorum from strangers' eyes, I keep natural decay, passing years sneaked. Naturally decay I hold of so many years, cannot be held with gold. It gets easier with guts, not tears. It all starts when the eyebrows elongate, while we lose our sight. Women don't give a damn, let alone a date. While your testicles lengthen and your penis shortens, the longing makes you sad, and the shyness fucks you up. In the northern mountains, a peasant pontificates, do not belittle yourself or come up short. Don't even think walking into a drugstore. And then your teeth rotten and your skull looks bald. Oh, I hope my rope won't snap. This is the last tug. Then death comes. One day has to come. And since you're no longer strong, to hell with it. Sleep where you belong. So that's Renato Leduc's El Correr de los Años, translated by me. And my response to that is this, very recent. I've been working on it. I think it's good to share. Here it is. I am not going to deny the fact that years of running, walking, climbing, skipping, dancing, jumping have become a memory in the marrow of my bones. Yellow diploma on the wall reads, citywide high school competition, second place, 100 meters with hurdles, Mexico City, 1970. My friend Jorge Rivero won first place. I could never beat him. These days, all joints, muscles, bones, and nerves crack and cramp like an old Impala, rusted joints, manifold out of line, lights don't work, carburetor spurts, ball tires and all. Bumpers drag, muffler fell. Who knows what'll be next? Sure as hell, sooner or later, the whining will spurt till the end, because that will be the end of that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. It's nice to see so many friends here. Okay, the first poem I'm going to read is a tribute to Thomas Hubbard, who passed away in May. I know many people in this room knew him very well. The day Thomas died. I climb a high ridge on the west slope of the mountains, watch spring fold back into itself with each step higher into scree. Hybrid trillium blooms in white and lavender. Fireweed curls back into fresh spring leaves, then just a stalk. Maple leaves crawl back into their buds as water cascades down the far ridge from snowfields up above. A creek runs too deep and fast to reach our destination, and so we too turn back. My friend tells me of hiking on the coast, unable to reach tidal flats of snowy plover. Tell me, Thomas, do you migrate by the sea, or are you sleeping deep in winter at the peak? After the Bolt Creek fire, I drew ash from this charred tree into my body, inhaled fine particles into my lungs and my blood. Its carbon stumbled on old lovers lodged in a chamber of heart. I want to fold myself into wet wool as darkness tumbles head over heels to the ground. Amid the stale scent of scorch and burn, I fumble for love in the night. The moon shines like a bone on the ravaged flesh of the forest, her ground laid bare, her secrets open. Birds vanish into silence. Each day breaks cold and damp as a sweat. My arms are empty and pale as the dawn, surrendered to every drawn breath. Smoke, day 9. The sun rises like burnt gold and sets like a garnet. My mouth is parched and metallic, the sky ash white, dull, and silent. A dark-eyed junco squats for long minutes on the picnic table like a drunk. Her tiny chest heaves in the fetid air. Inside, we await the next storm. Aspen Grove. When you speak of the night sky, this lover of morning gets lonely. There was a time when children were sleeping, I'd steal outside in the dark, stand under the moon and the stars, my feet rooted deep in the earth. Tonight, I gaze up at Orion, gravity weighed on the scales of the world. My eyes strain in the smallness of light, unsure of my place in the universe. The aspen grove burned like memories of a past life, a smooth gray bark consumed by black char. Golden heartwood still stands in a meadow of red twig and yellow twig willow, young hawthorn and sage, comfort in soft tones of color. Fusion. In the fullness of the moon is neither fusion nor fission nor a vision of the future. I gaze up from a planet split apart and I ask, can you still see the sky? Does it stretch across the taiga in a world that's set on fire, a howling wolf of hunger filling up the night through briskly moving clouds? When darkness comes, do you stand beneath Orion, hunt another sun, and birth a star? I think not. We're pebbles in the hands of fate, neither particle nor wave. The moon is just an inert rock reflecting back another's light, not a receptacle for dreams or love or faith. But I still ask you, does your sky at night look much like mine? Mismeasure. Other measurements are possible. Could you walk a verst or carry a pood, intersect forgotten time and culture without clashing? Or willfully forget anyone roam noise across the steppe of aster and yarrow, sand and river, hawk and harrier, dry grass and a field of dust, rush of mud and snow melt, mushrooms, birch, mess of blood, fingers, hands rough and calloused, nails in the coffin. Is this it? Could we be in a different time and place, harvest the bones, wipe sleet from the past, lay down the axe and set aside the hate, silence the wrought iron wave? A father lies in wait for his son in the grave. Cold damp. On the last day of my illness, I shed bits of leaves. Above the creek, fog pulsed in and out like an aurora. I exhaled a miasma into the cold and lonely atmosphere. Perhaps the ancient alchemists knew more than we imagine. I thought to slake my appetite with a bowl of dried twigs, bitter tea, and a scavenge of dark and shriveled berries, shrunken like hope, hopeless like shards of ice strewn underfoot, a flawed and fleeting diamond in the sun. Tonight, the sky awash with stars, the only light in a broken world. Tundra swans. After snow comes rain. The river overflows its banks, spills out across the fields, obliterates the crop stubble. I want to take you by the hand and show you tundra swans, a flash of white amid the fog, like lightning in the gray. The river rolls like thunder, our boots sink deep in clay. There are no words left to write. Our common language is the rain. Violin. It rained, and yet the light came in with ease, poured out upon a table set with opulence of bread and cheese, butter, asparagus, and sweets. A smorgasbord of languages and endless cups of tea with my beloved brother. 2 dogs slept beside the hearth, dreaming endless canine dreams amid the laughter. It was enough, all I should ever need, yet still live so close to darkness, I still dream pagan mysteries of ice and breathing fur, howling through the night, heated by ignited flesh on flesh, while sugar sparkles on the snow. Beneath a fine-honed sliver of the moon comes a deep-throated clamor out of tune, singing like the winter roars, an insistent echo of life within the void. Hear the creak of a lone fir stroked by the wind, an off-key piano, the screech of an old violin. Accident. Effort brought me nowhere close to where I'd hoped to be, except an accident of open heart and grateful for the flaying. Whoever thought love would listen and bend to intention, reason, and rules? It's a bloody human disaster, a ruthless toss of the dice, a mystery not found in death but life. The veil a lie of brittle bones, piercing eye to eye. We're just a dry rustle with no heaven to ascend, no resurrection, just unperturbed decomposition, our absurdity divined in burned out stars and clumsy shuffled cards. We pour out tea from battered leaves, sweat-soaked palm to palm. We're broken lines of poetry, fractured chords of song. View from the Apuan Alps. It would take stout boots to scale this mountain pass on foot. A thin road through a chestnut wood, its dark trunk still bereft of leaves in early spring. Far below, amid snails and wild primrose, 11th century Castello de Montecuccolo sits high on the horizon, taking in the view. This was the front in World War II. In the east, rising steeply from the Ligurian Sea, tiny villages persist, nestled into marble cliffs which have been sculpted into Roman columns and carved by Michelangelo to a smooth white genius. Francesco tells us his grandfather walked 4 hours every day to work in the mines. When he was a young man, his uncle perished in an accident, and his cousin runs the quarry now. He takes us in his truck through marble caverns, long tunnels, and winds us up past grave lane blocks and calcite dust to where we can see the sea. Later, he offers us crostini with tomatoes and herb-infused, marble-cured lard from Calinata. To the north in Ficarola, a tower leans into the main piazza at the end of market day. Vendors pack up meats and cheeses, artichokes and oranges, and hand me a sweet apple for the asking. I meet a man with all the names, yet there is no way to know if we are family. Grandpa left too long ago. Though it's springtime, the Po River is still low. Winter brought so little rain, and in the mountains, little snow. Downstream to the west, the river flattens, widens to a delta drained and filled, fished and farmed, and built upon for centuries. Here Etruscans traded Baltic amber with the Greeks. Canals are lined with blue-gray heron and snowy egret feeding. Grouse shuffle in the grass by cormorant and ibis. In dusty rose lagoons, flamingos shimmer in the sun. She rises slowly, spreads her wings, unfolds her stick-like legs, and dances on the water. A silent crimson flame, she disappears into the sky. One last one. Aquila. His name means eagle, and he wants to visit the Grand Canyon, though has never left his native Italy. He serves our dinner in a restaurant oddly named the White House, a few kilometers from the town where my grandfather was born in 1899. The filling was purple, radicchio and gorgonzola with sage and walnuts, all smothered in a rich cream sauce. I don't remember the name of the conch-shaped pasta. Thank you.
So I'm going to read a villanelle called The Artwork on the Backs of Gargoyles. Black wood strips, wire V's. Now the old veranda is a screened-in porch. I've never seen a man so stuck on himself, his sister says loudly. He thinks I'm hot to marry him. And does he ask himself why anyone would want him? No, he's too busy handing out bachelor medals. She tucks her long legs up and turns toward him, locket face, flushed. I'll never see him again. I'm like his sister, he says, and he doesn't want to marry his sister. But hell, why should anyone listen to this, even a brother fresh out of the seminary? Tell your big sister, why not stay here tomorrow and milk the old prodigal bit? Why should any man marry himself to books the way you do? You've never even been drunk. They'll think you're a weak sister, those boys you're out going to reform. They'll be out to get you. A little debauchery and sin wouldn't hurt you. Silence. Does anyone else talk so wicked to you? I'll make you old before your time. Silence. Better to marry than burn, your Bible says, so how come you and I are so hot to the touch? I should get out of here, I guess. Long silence. I'm your sister, for God's sake. Those times in the shed, I never meant to mess us up. I know you know that. And yet even now, your eyes are full of the old reproaches. Christ, the stars are really out in force tonight. I almost think anyone can be happy, even those who don't marry, don't or can't. God, don't you smile at anyone anymore? That's better. Give me the old razzle-dazzle. Remember Jen? She'd never seen such a beautiful boy, she said. And mother got rid of her, told her to get out. And Jenny said, it ain't me, it's his sister you need to watch. All these years and I've never forgotten. I saw the way she held you and kissed you. At first I was shocked that anyone, any grown-up, was like that. I asked how old she was once. You said, old enough to marry. You'd never tell anyone, your wife, if you marry, what your sister... No, you go ahead. I'll lock up, make sure the lights are out. This, it's a poem, Villanelle, called 103 Degrees. Daddy, fever's got me. He wants me to keep sailing out to sea, but with your smile you share a secret. When I'm burning in my sleep, you bring cool cloths. I awake and start to weep. No one will ever care for me like you care, Daddy. Fever's got me. He wants me to keep bloodying Kleenex like delicate sheep. He knows that under underwear, I wear a secret. When I'm burning in my sleep, desert sun probes to the heart of a deep well. Rattlers thicker than ropes lie coiled there. A secret. When I'm burning in my sleep, do you push aside my covers and stare? Do you bend low to me and whiff my hair? Daddy, fever's got me. He wants me to keep a secret when I'm burning in my sleep. This is a sestina called The Green Man. He lived at the end of a dead-end street. Farther on were woods he'd never seen up close. When ordered out of a playmate's house, he stayed inside for weeks, watching grass turn green on the far side of the fence. Hands on the glass, he spent alone the time that was his to spend. His mother gave him an allowance to spend on quick candy during errands without end. He bumped his forehead on the windshield glass, trying to point out things she hadn't seen, like copper cables weather had turned green. But errands without end ended at the house. She gave him groceries to carry in the house. Then he made himself scarce so she could spend some time in the kitchen preparing fresh green vegetables for the supper that would end his day. At the table, He tried to be seen and not heard. He kept his eyes on his glass, trying to make his glass nose break. If his glass was too full, he turned his plate into a house. The knife would visit the fork. I haven't seen you for so long. And bring his spoon wife to spend the night. Usually the fork would end in bed between them, his head on a soft green pillow. How come you always leave your green beans, sport? His stepfather poured a glass of wine. Sometimes such questions didn't end even when all the lights in the house were out. He'd hear his mom say, "Could you please spend more time with him? He needs you. I haven't seen him this withdrawn since his dad died." Have you seen him glare at me when I ask him about green beans, for Christ's sake? I know, but could you spend time with him tomorrow? Take him for a glass of ginger ale. Get him out of the house. Then came soft noises. Their talk was at an end. Have you seen him grown up, a gardener who'll spend hours with children? They tease him without end, call him the green man, throw stones at his glass house. And this is a sestina, a variant of a sestina. It's called a skeletal. I invented a skeletal sestina because it's lacking the customary repeated at the end. But this is the shy man and the fireworks. The once dark garden where the shy man walks is lit with torches, revealing a flickering forest of strangers with drinks in their hands. Green-eyed girls in silky sheaths laugh and lick their crimson lips. One tangles around his trembling legs. Enormous flowers explode in the sky, dazzle the shy man with falling crimson that shrinks to a glow of green and is gone. The shy man stands at the concrete edge of a pool. The glassy surface shatters when girl after laughing girl dives in. At the wild splashing of the naked girls, the shy man puts his hands in his pockets. Their laughter blunts the edges of a long denied desire and turns him crimson. When a girl emerges wet and dripping, he walks to her on feet of water. He wraps her wetness in a towel. They lie in the grass, and he kisses her on the soft outlines of her crimson lips. A plane roars overhead. The girl invades the wild forest of his body, green for the taking. He feels a rush. Hot flowers explode on a shining sky. He awakes after dawn. The girl's feet have slid between his shins like spoons. His pants are a snake in the nearby grass. He puts on his clothes and stumbles away, pats himself down on the steps of a church. He enters and kneels and asks for guidance. His praying is like a blanket of snow on the skeletal forest where his mind wanders. He lights ranks of candles, kisses marble feet. The once dark naves turn to familiar stone. Still, when he hears the church bells ring, they ring with laughter. Okay, this is a Villanelle. What you give me. You give me so much I don't want. To get you to stop won't be easy. I don't think you'd try to touch me, but if you ever did, I'd let you know that wasn't called for. What does it net you to give me books and wallets? I don't see why you give me so much. I don't want to get you angry, but your gifts unnerve me. I bet you know that. You're smart, I think, and shy, too shy to touch me. But if you ever did, I'd let you know it was wrong. Issue the kind of threat you understand, the kind that brings a tear to your eye. You give me so much I don't want. To get you to see what's happened as I do would set you back some. There's a sanction you'd have to deny to touch me, but if you ever did, I'd let you know you transgressed. I felt when I met you how it was, yet you gave me the slip, the lie. You give me so much. I don't want to get you to touch me, but if you ever did, I'd let you. Okay. It's a villanelle called Another Life. It's a sestina with, it's a variant on a sestina. It changes tense. Okay. Another life. Whatever I knew damn well. Men bounced me till my mouth went dry. I wishboned a horse and rode like hell. Mom said there wasn't much to tell. I'd bleed for years and then go dry. Whatever I knew damn well. When I was raped, she made me tell, but I made sure my eyes were dry. I wishboned a horse and rode like hell. I married a boy who couldn't tell, and I made sure I wasn't dry. Whatever I knew damn well. The tree I hang from will never tell why. The limb I hang from is stout and dry. Whatever I knew damn well. I wishboned a horse and ride like hell. This is something a little more, maybe not. This is after the funeral. Then I'll try to think of a happier one here. He follows his manifest breath back to the frozen house he used to call home. The second from the bottom step still creaks, but the green porch swing is nowhere to be seen. Regret, the black cat who never liked men, winds around his legs, then moves away. The key isn't Scotch taped to the back of the ice-glazed mailbox. It's under the home sweet home mat he made in first grade, which is still stained as if with faint green blood on the side where he left boots. The key stalls. Why did he never hang on to his all those times he moved away? He's in. The tall clock stands at attention, back to the wall. Its case may be the dark home of cornered spiders, but the pendulum still cuts a clean arc from here to nowhere and back. The old deaf hound whose name he never remembers has somehow found a way to wedge herself between the wall and the back of the couch under his mother's childhood "Home is where the heart is" sampler, which still hangs by a thread. The dog's legs twitch. She runs where her dreams take her, fields where Brer Rabbit never heard of Mr. Dog. He makes his slow way to the bathroom closeted under the back stairs. He used to bring bottles of moonshine home and hide them under this floor. A friend joked, "Still waters do run deep." But the kitchen's where the warmest things happened. He never sees deep bowls without remembering the way the leaden dough would rise. He'd punch it back. It always rose again. Things are coming home to him too quickly. He goes outside. The still night air is fresh and cold. He stands where the lilacs were. The stars, which are never just stars, shine, but not in the friendly way they used to. He'll sell things and give the pets to friends. Coming home still means being nowhere. He'll never come back. He'll never get away. Okay. So this one something. Okay. The law, beauty, nakedness, religion. That's the title. I sit behind you at the edge of light, watching you paint. Outside, rain is falling on the just and unjust, but your studio is a world apart from rain or cold religion, slick expressways, soaked pedestrians. Your face is the dark side of a lover's moon, as your canvas, nude, commands you, though the jut of your jaw tells me what a battleground of light and dark the two of you struggle in. Her face stays toward me. Her eyes keep falling on me, a real woman, fully clothed. Religion, if I had one, would give me that look. She is calm beyond indolence. Her muscled thigh is what first betrays her. As determined as your jaw, the curve of her leg is a religion unto itself, and her velvet V makes light of other darks. Soldiers who spend themselves on such darkness in the dark will find themselves face down in such lush undergrowth, they have to face ultimates. If they come home, such is that power, they could spend their lives falling on the marriage bed, dizzy with gratitude. Your body was my star, they'll tell their wives, a light from beyond the zones of war, the religion of death. They will not be lying. Religion will surround them in the bedroom. The first face they see in Saturday morning's lavish light will be God's face. Such is the law. Such too is beauty, nakedness, rebellion, your insolent nude. Outside, rain is falling on houses indiscriminately, falling on streets as randomly as blissful religion. Oh, and now you are turning toward me. Your eyes are seeking me out. We are face to face. The sacred comes with its own rush. Love is the shadow cast here, now, by that other light. On your face, random light is falling like religion. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I get to read to you from my latest book, my first book of poetry that was just launched on the 27th of August, and I'm very excited. It's called Unique Like Everyone. Thank you. A short one to start. Cerebral. I've had too much to think today. My mind feels tipsy. Homecoming for the children. I will live this day well, just, and kind, so when my night's sleep has ended, and I, with another chance to awaken pre-dawn, will return to trim the maiden's blush lilacs, offer a series of waves at the minivan caravan sortie. As neighborhood moms and dads drive their wee daughters and sons to grammar schools, their adult children head off to senior high, and they drive themselves to tall buildings, shops, or back to the home desk for the day. Looking up from cutting back, brown euphorbia, hands protected from its toxic white sap midday, I will wave as the broods redescend. Tail lights flicker off in the drives as tiny backpacks drop, swapped out for basketballs. I will live this day as though all will come home, At their day's end, giddy bare feet run to glide again and again the length of a slip and slide. On a side yard, a good dog peers through a fence. Blue popsicle sticks will drip in sticky hands. Young laughter will echo over the street and anoint the hybrid tea roses in their buds, then move through the mighty ancient walnut to the young crabapples slowly growing, and gift my gardening face with its grin. Can you hear the baby black-capped chickadee-dee-dees? They are just fledging from the nest in the old birdhouse shaped like a church where the Anna's hummingbirds sip from dwarf-crested irises. As wind chimes jingle, gentle breezes mingle with the chorus of bells on bikes freshly freed from training wheels. Sweet sounds waft amid bent branches of the contorted filbert as Cantonese soliloquies syncopate their rich tones. All that ever is was created in darkness. All that grows moves towards light. Let us draw from the numinous the capacity to trust that the chickadees will return next spring to continue the cycle again. Written after the massacre at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, May 24th, 2022. As I watched my neighborhood children and wanted them just to come home so I could wave from my garden. Real. Dear one, you have come so far through abuses and deceptions, misperceptions of others' best intentions, weighted depression from an injured brain, traumas for which you know the names. All that threatened to defeat you didn't beat you. You can't let it and won't allow them ever to steal your shine again. Dear one, once cast down in tears, have put in the years to unravel who you are at heart. You are more than enough, you are real. All those moments deeply flustered until you found the sinew in you, mustered from eras in which you dwelled in a cave sequestered, despairing, praying for a better outcome, yet out you came, you persevered. Dear one whose generous heart at times greatly deceived you, willingly you gave so much to ease others' burdens, you forgot you too were a deserving part when you honed your gaze within and the spotlight turned away from them. They were for a time discomfited. It wasn't your fault. Not only ask what others want to eat, nourish yourself as well, and receive the hand extended to you. Dear one, you are more than enough. You are real.
Mary, I wanted to say about Thomas Lee Hubbard, I did not know he had passed. He was a good friend, former student of mine. Just a wonderful soul. I met him and Cheryl Sorotnick many years ago. And actually, he published me back in the 90s with Gazubi Tales. I think the theme was something like sons forgiving the sins of their fathers, something like that. Anyway, so I dedicate this reading to Thomas tonight. Just one reading, just one poem rather, a prose poem in 3 parts. Mary, I love how a lot of your poems have one-word titles. I kind of went the other way on this one. It's called The Day I Realized What's Been Missing from My Life. Part 1. I'm doing laps at the gym when I take a break and watch the water babies class at the other end of the pool. 12 lifeguards in red swimsuits are holding 12 babies while parents sit in wooden chairs outside the steam room, sauna, and jacuzzi, most with faces affixed to their phones. I find this water babies class to be altogether amusing and entertaining, and that's when the realization hits me in the gut like a sucker punch. To begin, I have never doubted for a moment that the wheels on the bus go round and round, the wipers go swish, 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 and the horn goes beep, beep, beep. And I find it equally plausible that this repetition in triplicate continues unabated all throughout the town. Okay, I get it. It makes perfect sense. Aha. But the hokey pokey, now that's a different tune altogether. You put your right foot in, you take your right foot out, you put your right foot in, and you shake it all about. I learned all this at Catholic wedding receptions when I was in grade school, but today, as an adult dealing with adult issues, I realized the most important part of that song has eluded me for years. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. I was putting everything in and taking everything out, including hands, hips, feet, even my whole self. Put your whole self in, take your whole self out. And when I was out, I didn't hesitate to shake it all about. I had that part down too. But to successfully complete the hokey pokey, you have to turn yourself around. That's the key. That's the part I'd been missing. Sometimes to survive the turbulent waters of modern society or the local health club, you have to turn yourself around. I was shaking it all about, but clearly I wasn't turning myself around. Part 2. I noticed that water babies cry and reach out for mommy or daddy when handed over to the lifeguards in the pool, and their tiny toes touch the cool water for the first time. But by the time the lesson is over, the water babies cry because they don't want out. They don't want to leave the pool. The water is warm now. It's like being back in the womb. And as they are being handed back to the waiting parent on the sidelines with a dry towel, the babies desperately reach out back toward the water, toward the lifeguard. They don't want to leave, not now that they have learned to turn themselves around. Part 3. Hokey means silly or sappy. Pokey, slow. Also slang for jail. So the point of the hokey pokey is, if that you feel like being slow or in jail is silly or sappy, you've missed the whole point, because you haven't turned yourself around, and that's what it's all about.
Thank you. We went old school on the name. Okay, here's my promotion. November 5th through the 12th is the Guanajuato Writing Retreat in Guanajuato, Mexico. I am the host of it. My time in Guanajuato led to this book, Dreaming en Cantera, Sueños en Cantera. There are 2 people here tonight, T and Raul, who were some of the angels that helped get these poems in their final form. And if anyone's interested in the retreat, it's multi-genre. So poetry, prose, songwriting, any type of thing. You'll get down to Guanajuato, you'll see the magic of the city, and you'll write your little toes off. So here's a little taste of 2 of the poems in the book. A flock of quail. In another time, in another desert, a flock of birds flew from sea to Sinai. The people were weary, hungry, questioning. They didn't know they would wander for 40 years, that it takes that long for those born enslaved to die, that only those raised without a home would appreciate freedom, swear oaths to a new land. What must they have thought when they saw the quail? Before devouring them, did they understand their kinship? 2 trapped species cast by a will not their own to the Egyptian desert. One bereft of its prairies and meadows, sent to feed the other. The quail must have tasted of sustenance and chains, relieving hunger but not the sorrow of not knowing where they belonged. Montezuma quail rarely fly, pass whole days digging under dense native grasses for tubers, acorns, and insects. I, too, dig for what lies hidden under dense pastures of desire, ever seeking a homeland. I have not worn the bonds of slavery. I do not know why I have wandered so long. I am subject to the same caprice that protects us from one danger, only to bring us to another. Strong enough to carry flightless woodland birds to the desert, soft enough to bellow my vocal cords, the eternal wind forming the sound of my voice, the song of searching. And this is an ode to Guanajuato. If you've ever been to Mexico, if you've ever been to a city like Guanajuato, you know that contradictions are the essence, and the ability to love that which disturbs you, which rankles you, to find the beauty in sometimes the things that we wouldn't think are beautiful. Ode to Guanajuato, love me like that. You came to her unknowing. Let her change you. Now you sing and dance, stay out late, sleep in, laugh, wander. You want more. You talk only of her gifts, her sweetness, her welcome arms, her capacity to surprise. You wax in her incandescence. You follow every which way she turns, circles back on herself, chases you down rain-slicked paths, goads you to climb after her with labored breath, shaking ribs. You cannot get enough of her. You disregard that she lives by her own rules, never apologizes. You ignore the dead mouse outside the front door, unswept for 3 days. You forgive the mandarin orange peels, bottle caps, glass shards, the rank smell of piss, of shit indelibly staining her pink complexion. You are enraptured. You allow her to close on a whim, dead end, tell stories you don't understand. Your nostrils flare when she flaunts her age and disrepair, her graffiti raged back. She asks you to leave behind all you've ever known, to forsake all others, to give her everything. She promises nothing. You fall to your knees, pledge undying loyalty. You will never leave her. You breathe in her sharp, baited musk. You enter her, claim her, sway and pulse, release the sourness and strain you once harbored. Love me the way you love her. Thank you.
Through Leopoldo. That was great. I have to tell you, years ago, I went to the fireworks show at Gasworks Park when my kids were, 8 and 9 and 12, I think. And we, of course, the show finished, and we were all walking out in this mass of people. And I hear behind me, hot soup coming through, and we all turn around, and there's a guy on roller skates, and he just goes through the crowd like a fish, My kids were like, we'll never forget it. It's a fantastic moment. Had to be there. But I think it's a good title for a poetry collection, don't you think? So there's a lot of talk these days about banning books in schools. And so I got to thinking about this, and so I have some advice for people that want to think about banning books in high school. So if they are banning books from high school libraries, they should consider banning books on algebra. Then teenage boys would sneak them around from backpack to backpack and say, hey, Bobby, check this out. There's stuff in here I don't understand, but we can figure this shit out after school. My house, my mom's out for the afternoon. So the inspiration from this piece was threefold. First was a chance encounter that I had with a raccoon some years ago, where I chased him across a deserted street away from my house, and he kind of looked at me and went like, what are you doing, man? And he was right. What was I doing? And the second one was, I grew up in the 50s, and my parents had Fords, but remember the Mercury was a little better, a little sizzle to it. And the Mercury Blues, I love the Mercury Blues. Buy me a Mercury and cruise it up and down the road. That one. And then the final piece was, I was at a writing workshop, and they give little 6-word prompts. And so this came out of that 6-word prompt. That's where all the weirdness came from. The prompt was, I figured it was okay. I figured it was okay to leave my pet raccoon Willie in the back seat of my car. He was asleep and could be quite cranky when you woke him, but I was only going to be gone for a minute to get a pack of smokes, and he frankly did not do well in convenience stores. Actually, he did very well, as he was quite adept with packaging and could unpack an entire kiosk in about 3 minutes, so it could get very expensive. As it turned out, my 2-minute task turned complicated and quite dark. The convenience store was in the middle of being robbed by 2 guys who had guns and made us all lie on our faces and not look at them. So I did as I told, stayed motionless, trying my best to imitate a rug. Nevertheless, one of the robber guys kicked me as he growled, "Which car is yours?" "The blue Merc," I blurted out. "Give me your keys, shit for brains," he demanded. Thinking of Willie, I hesitated, No but, he barked as he pointed the gun at my head. I handed him my keys, and they dashed out to the car. As they sped away, I saw Willie's little masked face pop up in the back window. Police came minutes later, and after assessing the situation and getting a description of my car, decided to chase after them. "Come with us. You can identify the car and maybe help with the raccoon." Did I say it was 1954? They did things like that back then. We saw the Mercury pulled over in a ditch. Willie had made short work of them boys. They were out of the car, staggering around, shirts torn, nursing gashes in their faces and shoulders. Have you ever seen a mad raccoon? He was standing there holding pieces of plaid shirt in one hand and hair in the other, with a clearly pissed off look aimed squarely at me like, "What the fuck?"
I was going to read from my book, but then popular demand said, do a performance. So I'm going to do this is part of my New York Stories skits. And so this particular story was the result of a prompt from my improv class that said, "What was your favorite room?" And it turned out that my favorite room in my whole life was my dark room. I loved my dark room. And it was in New York. I had a big studio, and my husband had built me this dark room. So when you walked into the room, it was, you'd open the door, it was about 10 feet wide and 12 feet long and painted completely black. And it had a yellow light on the ceiling. And on one side was an enlarger that was absolutely huge. It was bigger than I was. I mean, it was the biggest enlarger you could get, okay? And on the other side was a sink that was made out of gray painted wood with a cypress duckboard and big enough to have 4 trays. One was the developer, which we called soup. Then there was the stop bath, which was acetic acid. So after you developed it, you put it in the stop bath to stop the developing. Then you had to put it in the fixer another 3 minutes so that it wouldn't turn black when you turned on the light. And then finally at the end, you put it into running water. And I spent 45 years in that dark room with the running water and the light and the radio on WBAI, which was the People's Station. And you never knew what WBAI was going to present that night. It was either jazz or classical. One night they did 2 hours worth of Hawaiian love song. It was just a zone that you entered. So I was in my dark room, and I had done a portrait of a Mexican artist named Pepe Orejo. And I had done the exposure, and I put the paper into the soup, and I was waiting for the picture to come up. It was always like a ghost. The paper looked like it was pale, and then suddenly, like from the spirit world, this face would come up out of the paper in black and white, and it was like a ghost coming at you from the other side. Well, so I was in the soup, and the radio was on, and suddenly, on the radio, I heard a voice. And the voice was, "Hello, and how do you do? This is Dr. Ruth Westheimer. And tonight, we are going to talk about the penis." Well, don't mistake me. It wasn't the fact that she was going to talk about the penis that was bothering me. What was bothering me was Dr. Ruth had the same accent as my mother, and the same voice as my mother, and had come from the same city as my mother. It was as if my mother was suddenly on the radio going, "Peggy, tonight we are going to talk about the penis." No, Mom, no, Mama, no. And there I was in the soup trying to get this thing developed now because I really wanted to get out of the darkroom, and our hands were wet and I couldn't reach the radio. And so I'm in the soup, and suddenly, you hear, well, we're going to have someone call in today. Rabbi, how do you do? And what is your question? Get into the stop bath again. Well, Dr. Ruth, I have a boyfriend, and the two of us, we're really in love, but my mom says I'm really being sinful, and I just don't know what to do with my penis. She says, Rabbi, don't worry about a thing. Don't worry about your mother. You are doing fine. Do whatever your heart wants you to do, and just enjoy your boyfriend. And believe me, you will figure out what to do with it. I promise. And I'm trying to get out of here, and I'm in the stop bath, right? And I'm trying to get into the fixer so I can get out of there. And the water's running, and she's like on and on and on about the penis, and all I want to do is get out of there. Finally, okay, I could turn on the light. Well, there's what I call the Dracula effect when you turn on the light. It's always like when the light goes on, you're like, you get the light, it hurts. So I turn on the light, pull up the picture of Pepe, run out of the dark room with my mother's voice in the distance.
That would not be my mother. We did not talk about the penis. Okay, my poem is called Not Like a Salmon. I was born at 1309 Summit Avenue in Seattle. You won't find 1309 Summit Avenue today, as it's been swallowed up by the Virginia Mason Hospital. Somewhere in there, not visible to the naked eye, or even an eyeball with 20/20 vision, somewhere in there, I took my first breath at 8:25 p.m. on September 30th, 1944. I was supposed to be born on October 1st, but the physician had a party to go to. It was wartime. He really wanted to go to the party. It was the real war. My father was a naval aviator. Mother and father set up a household on Beach Road in Oak Harbor on Whidbey Island. I am a salmon returning to my birthplace. Only I already spawned 2 girls in the 1970s, so I won't be dying up here. I hope not. But I have driven by the place where I took my first breath, about a short drive from my house on Vine Street. In 1944, I celebrated my first Christmas here, although I don't remember it at all. There are pictures of a fat, happy baby under a living pine tree. That tree might still be here, but other than the lack of spawning, I remain salmon-like. I have returned, not to spawn, but to carry on. I am looking forward to another Christmas here. I had one in the 1960s at my uncle's dairy farm outside of Darrington. It snowed on Christmas Eve in 1961. As I am a child, I got all excited and ran into the field to grab a snowball, waiting for me as if it had my name on it. I leaned down and put my hand over the top of the ball, and of course, it wouldn't move. Good thing, because on closer examination, it was a cow pie, frozen in the snow. Maybe that happens a lot in Darrington. I won't fall for that again. It makes for an amusing story. I am amused. It added joy on an ordinary day. Yes, it was Christmas, but not everyone celebrates that day. The cows didn't know it was Christmas, and they had to be milked. We still had to milk them. I was not amused.
To spend a little bit of time on biography, because without it, this first poem makes no sense whatsoever. We've been in Seattle a few years, but many years in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We're happy to be living partly in West Seattle, partly in Cambridge, so we're in two of the best possible places you could live. In Cambridge, you cannot see the mountains, but one thing that Cambridge has that West Seattle does not have is a sidewalk poetry contest. And I don't know where this came from, but the deal is it's run by the Arts Council, and every year you can enter this contest. And the deal is it's a short poem, maybe 10 lines maximum, I think, and maybe 150 people enter, and they choose 5 poems, which are then cast in concrete and put in the sidewalk. And they're the usual, you know, people write about relationships, they write about nature, there's some really nice poems. But I was thinking, someone should write a sidewalk poem. Yeah, and so I wrote a sidewalk poem in order to win the contest, and it worked. And so this poem is a sidewalk poem. It's in the sidewalk a couple places in Cambridge. And so that's the context, because you have to imagine you're walking down the street and you look down and you see this in the sidewalk. Yo, I'm a poem. Speak my words while you're walking. Now you are the sidewalk talking. Step on me. There you go. Now you got poetry in your soul. Anyway, we've been in Seattle a while now, and it occurred to us one time we'd never been to Alaska. And so a couple of months ago, no, actually just August, we went to Alaska, and the high point of the trip was doing a flight seeing tour of Denali, which was stupendous. But I got fabulous photos, but you come home and sort of, the photo isn't the whole thing. What was going on here? So in order to explain it to myself, I wrote a poem. It's called Ticket to Ride, Denali, 2023. By a coffee shop in Talkeetna, a hand-carved sign, elevation 263 feet, which puts the summit of Denali more than 20,000 feet above this spot. And you'd think such largeness would be visible. But the mountain makes weather, and here we are 3,000 miles in a train ride from home, and we can't see what we came for because of clouds. But that's just nature. For $329, we book a seat on a 6-passenger single-engine de Havilland Otter. Quebec built 1980 to pierce the clouds and take us to the show. In our headphones, the pilot's Georgia accent narrates our flight into the mixer. The mazy crush and confused hum underneath the stadium, then a passageway, a great splash of sun, and we're in. Clouds fall away, doubts vanish. Blue, white, black, ice, sky, granite shine with clarity, obliterating adjectives. Distant peaks come close. Time bends to Denali's scale. Our plane sets down on a glacier. We bundle out tourists from Asia and the lower 48 and walk aimlessly, gazing upward, asking, what is that peak? Oh, that's Foraker, named after a senator from Ohio. And this glacier? Kalhitna, a misappropriation of a forgotten word that speaks to no one. And what do we call this air? What is the name for this feeling we get wandering on this bright stage? How are we even here? Time's up. We're herded aboard, strapped in, and lifted off, climbing and tilting de Havilland's wings, circling the jagged bowl of certain truths. Does our engine shatter the silence? Who knows? We're wearing headphones. We snap last photos of flashing whiteness before we merge into clouds and sink back toward town, carrying the memory of the answers to so many questions I don't know how to ask. And I got one more. I was wondering if I was going to read this, but because Mercury's came up and Ford's, I felt like it was a door was open to this. This is a teenage guy poem, okay? And it's called 56 Ford. All aboard, got the key to the Ford. Bench front seat, column shift, pop the clutch and split the suburban night. One arm drive and sugar shift for me, 6 Pabst on the floor, knee to knee, sweet air of cut grass in the dark. $2 fill-up, slide on over, windows down, arm round your shoulder. They're playing our song. We own this town. Mint green two-tone 56 Ford. I sold one on eBay, fully restored.
Oh, I have two poems for you tonight. This first one was written on the 3rd anniversary of 9/11, and I had a friend that was living in New York when all that happened, and wrote this. It's a sestina, but it's a truncated sestina. I took the last 2 lines off of it. Anyway, it's entitled Ash Tuesday. Cleansed at last of burial ash, you return to tell of angels falling from the sky, the fire where you lost yourself as day turned to night in brittle madness. Streets brushed with unspeakable dust clouds, embers burning the city silent. How your subway car suddenly shuddered silent, the ground above heaving as towers fell to ash. Trapped below, none of you knew. Only embers of wild confusion, igniting distrust. Even there, with no sky, you tasted the coming madness, humanity's dark night. You helped a pregnant woman to the street like night, joined the tide of muffled footsteps, silent exodus across the bridge. Toward what? This madness knows no borders. Eyes burning with tears and ash, you walked blind. 9 a.m. daylight wiped clean from the sky, dawn of a new era, hissing like embers. Back turned on a vision once sought, embers of love swathed the night like neon in the sky, rained down in silent questions. What was true? What was ash? And this one is a completely different mood, called All I Have Left. If this is all I have left, let me live it in bold strokes, unabashed, unafraid. Let me leave autumn skies to their size of burning copper, courage forged in smoldering fire. If this is all I will know, let me sing it a cappella to those who have lost their dreams. Let me live what I have left with grace, just grace. Let me know grace. Let me live the iridescent hope carried on hummingbird wings and my son's smiling eyes. If this is all there is, let me speak it fluently, light on my tongue. Thank you.
A year ago, I sustained an injury, and the urgent care doctor prescribed prednisone, which I'd never taken before. And if anybody's ever taken prednisone, it has the capability to do really weird things to you. And I got a little manic, bought red shoes, bought pink shoes, which is like, I kept the red shoes. And my doctor wrote that in the notes. So weird. But I don't write poetry in, I don't write metered poetry, but I was so compelled to write a poem in meter, I couldn't help it. So anyway. Yeah, it was just a very awful, actually, experience. More awful than the actual injury, actually. Yeah, achy, though. Crow funeral. All feather-mouthed and jaw-hinged soft, the cat released a fledgling crow with still some life to flap a game of toss and catch. I swooped the bundle to a box, climbed a ladder up the shed where black-cloaked corvids scrocked and cried their frantic loss. No use, I knew, but still I pushed the box atop the roof, home to nothing but a rat. And all that day and through to dusk until no glint in moonless dark, crows paced sentry on the ledge. The apple tree hid dozens more among red ripening fruit. Silence then from every beak, no bass note dirge to usher out a bird's last failing breath, and not to lift into the clouds caught on a wing, but down to earth, a simple grave, unmarked. And crows have terrific memories, and they did not forget that cat for many years. They would dive at him. They threw cones from my fir tree at him. It was a war. It was very sad. September. The zinnias are at their peak and in love with the sun, their roots suffused in fish emulsion, so that one last fiery flush may burst skyward before October lets loose its atmospheric rivers. So much of life is spent making things grow, children, marriages, potted plants. Yet my own late summer self has used up every blossom. Not much left to conjure with chemical potions. No blonde balayage, no botulinum needled into frown lines. Best I gather seeds in autumn, knowing the end is inevitable, knowing how lucky I'll be to fool it come spring. Thank you.
The Dog Philosopher. It is a park by Lake Washington. The Sammamish River runs into the lake. Its water is brown and sluggish. The dog is a chocolate Labrador mix. He's young, inquisitive, friendly. Dog lovers want to pet him. He shows his appreciation with tail, tongue, and paws. And if you don't watch it, he'll jump on you. He studies his world with care. He pretends he would eat the ducks if they did not fly away. The grass, kempt and verdant, is his for urination and defecation. Spots are selected post extensive investigation, especially at night. The trees, tall, stately, rising straight into the sky, are for chasing squirrels up high. Cats have stayed outside his experience. He does not presume to deny their existence. Other dogs are friends and Romans. They play games of tag by the lake. Birds elude his clumsy forays, squawk their annoyance at the interruption. Such are his world and his being. They meld well, satisfy the essence of philosophy.
Reading Lust has its perks. I will not mispronounce the next person's name. And it really doesn't matter how long I will take, will it? I have a couple of haikus for you tonight. No, a few. Raul's hilariously, disintegrating poem took me to pieces, so I have something that kind of ties into that. I have always expected to reach an old age. Finally, I have reached it. Now what? A 10-year-old girl received her killer's bullet with an open heart. Rest assured, the flower of your death will never die. The red moon in the sky hangs by a thread till I close my eyes. Herd of mountain goats hang above the Ptarmigan Trail. Neck hurts from gazing. The unacquainted love went for a long walk. It did not return. At winter solstice, the full moon died at midnight, the end of the world. And so is the end of my reading. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nicole.